This is Scott Becker with the Becker Private Equity and the Becker Business Podcast. I'm thrilled today to visit with Matt Duchamp. And Matt is a partner at Rigby Slack. He focuses in the commercial real estate area, healthcare, and life sciences. A terrific leader, a terrific person. Matt, can you take a moment and tell us a little bit about your background and your career?
Of course. Well, first of all, Scott, thank you so much for having me. I am an avid fan of all of your podcasts, but especially this one. And as you mentioned, I'm a partner at the law firm of Rigby Slack in Austin, Texas. My practice is half focused on commercial real estate, and the other half is, healthcare and life sciences transactions. And of course, as we'll get into in a minute, there's a fair amount of overlap between those two subspecialties. And I'm a Texas guy through and through. Born in Waco, Texas. Went to Texas A&M University for my undergrad, and then South Texas College of Law at Houston for law school, and then moved to Austin shortly after graduation, and have been here ever since.
Now, is being an Aggie, a Texas A&M grad, is that the kind of thing like they say about Notre Dame? You can't understand it unless you were actually a Texas A&M Aggie, the culture and the love for the place.
Yes, absolutely. And if you have 3 hours to talk about my love for Texas A&M and specifically Texas A&M athletics, we could do that. But yes, it's unique. I think the comp to South Bend and Notre Dame is very appropriate because they are very similar.
Great cultural icons with fantastic cultures. Take a second. You've had the great fortune of working both in the sort of in a private practice of law, but also for a company as a general counsel. And talk about how that informs your ability to provide counsel and guidance to clients today. The fact that you actually were in-house too at one point.
Of course. Well, as you know, Scott, that's where you and I met, was when I was in-house, and it is such an invaluable experience, much like a lot of very formative, valuable experiences in life, is that you don't really realize how valuable they are until you are past them or beyond them, whether they be good times or bad times. And so it's been truly remarkable for me to see how much overlap there has been from my in-house practice as a chief legal officer and general counsel to now, for the past 3.5 years, having been back in private practice with my own private clients, right? And doing what I've been doing at Rigby Slack. It's my clients come to me with an expectation that they will, of course, receive exceptional legal advice. But one thing that I hope and feel that they also get from me is the ability to kind of step back, take that 10,000, 30,000 foot view, if you will, and be able to see, what are the short-term and long-term business risks? What are my operational shortcomings? Matt, you have built an executive team before. How do you feel about my team? Do you feel like we're missing any key pieces, right? Do we have the right people in the right seats, that sort of thing? And so there's certainly a lot of valuable tools that, frankly, I'm sure that I don't even fully utilize them as I move forward in my private practice. But you're right, Scott. I'm very fortunate to have worked in both worlds, so to speak.
No, and I love that about your background, your ability to provide counsel and advice. Talk for a second about, give me a little bit. You work across two big areas amongst commercial real estate as well as in the healthcare sector. Give us a couple trends you're watching in commercial real estate, and then I'm going to ask you to give us a couple trends that you're watching in the healthcare sector too. What are you seeing in commercial real estate? For a while, office buildings were getting crushed, at least in some parts of the country, but logistics places, distribution places were doing well, residential was doing well. What are you seeing in commercial real estate? What do you see there?
Sure. So I would say that there's still a sort of a stagnation in the general commercial real estate office market. That's when people think commercial real estate, specifically those who aren't in the industry, that's what they think of, right? Our offices and multifamilies. And it's certainly, different around the country, depending on what region that you're in. I'll tell you that in Texas and in the greater Southwest, we are seeing, almost a boomtown economy for industrial space. I would say probably of the 15 deals that I think I have pending right now, 13 of those are for multi-site industrial properties, meaning that the transaction will cover the purchase of more than one industrial property. And so that subsection of the commercial real estate industry is very strong. I would also say that new builds for medical offices, medical office complex, hospitals, surgery centers, that sort of happy medium between mixed-use retail and healthcare offerings, that's really doing well, specifically in the Houston and Dallas markets, which I also have a lot of clients there as well. And so, yeah, those are two areas that I'm really seeing, take off. And then at some point, they will stabilize. But I think that, the future is bright for those two. But I do think, as I mentioned at the beginning, for just traditional out of the box office space, certainly more of a stagnant environment, and I think we'll continue to see that, certainly for the next 12 to 24 months.
Thank you. Certainly a really interesting time in real estate, and fascinating what you're talking about, the industrial, the logistics, the distribution versus the traditional, what people thought of as commercial real estate, which was the big office buildings. Talk a bit about what you're seeing in healthcare, because you also worked in the pain management sector and the healthcare sector. What are you seeing there?
Sure. So what I am seeing still a large degree of consolidation at the physician-owned practice level. And what do I mean by that is, whereas 7 years ago, I could probably count on, two hands the number of practices that I had that were, currently actively managed by or with a private equity partner, meaning there had been a private equity transaction. Now, it is very rare that I work with any healthcare client of any size who does not have some sort of strategic private equity or other financing or lending partner. And so that trend is not new, but that trend has certainly continued to grow and escalate. Another thing I'm seeing is, sort of almost on the flip side of that coin is, as younger and younger physicians come into vogue and they become the majority in various healthcare markets, certainly in Austin and certainly in the greater Southwest, we're seeing a lot more physicians come out who, frankly, are really interested in the benefits and all the pros that come with working for a large hospital system or working for a large surgery center outfit that owns multiple facilities around the state or perhaps even around the country.
Fascinating. When you look at this year, 2026, we're already 3 months in, besides the Texas A&M football season next fall. Take a second, Matt. What are you most focused on and excited about as we get into the rest of this year and the end of 2026?
Sure. I am really excited, at least in my own practice. I have several, large, actually 3 of each now that I come to think of it, commercial real estate deals, and then what I'll call large life sciences transactions. Actually, both of those involve commercial real estate because property will be exchanged when those transactions ultimately take place. Those are in the works now, but they are all slated to close starting July 1 and then rolling all the way into the end of December. So, obviously very tumultuous time in the economy, lots of uncertainty, but at least in, of course, I say this thankfully, in the 2 sectors in which I work, there is a great deal of stability and the future seems to be bright.
Well, fantastic. And Matt, you're having this remarkable career. You're a remarkably good person and leader. What advice would you give to emerging leaders, people trying to build terrific careers?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Scott. So I have 4 sons that range in age from 11 to 4, 11 soon to be 5. And one thing that I think they have taught me that I don't think I realized how much that, I actually needed the lesson myself as a young professional is that there should be no fear of failure, right? Because without failure and refinement, there's no growth. And, I think that we get out of school and we have expectations, frankly, that we put on ourselves more than we put on, more than that are foisted on by anyone else. And we think that we've got to be perfect and we think we've got to go 4 for 4 at the plate. Well, if you're 24 years old and you're coming out of law school, you're going to be disappointed, right? Because you're not going to go 4 for 4 tomorrow night at the plate. And there's going to be learning moments, and there's going to be awkward conversations, and there's going to be times when you're going to have to ask for help. And my advice to anyone really, but certainly folks interested in either, a legal career similar to mine or to yours, or, who wants to get involved in commercial real estate or healthcare, is that embrace opportunity and don't fear failure, because there is growth and refinement to be had. And you'll wake up one day 10, 15, 25 years down the road and realize you wouldn't be who you were without those moments of struggle and difficulty.
No, fantastic. I remember my best baseball game ever. I went 4 for 6. And that was unusual for me. And the concept of ever going 4 for 4 was crazy. I literally remember it like it was yesterday. It was so unusual for me. I was a guy who played hockey, and I remember every single goal I ever scored because I scored so few of them. That's the only way you remember every single goal. So I love the sports analogy. When you talk to the 4 to 11-year-olds, a generation ago, you would have said, be an accountant, be a lawyer, be this, be that. How do you guide them professionally, or think about how you guide them professionally in such a changing world?
Sure. So it's interesting because we have family members that own very successful, trade-based businesses, right? Plumbers, electricians, HVAC repair, elevator repair. And, those are such tangible, but also valuable, professions and trades to learn. And it's often difficult to explain, Dad, what do you do at work? Well, I'm a commercial real estate and life sciences lawyer. Okay, well, what do you do, right? So career days are difficult, but I would say that the advice that I give them, right, because the world does look different. It's a lot different than what my parents would have told me, and certainly what I thought I would be telling my kids, is that there will be opportunities out there, right? And those opportunities have to be seized. Well, do you just get opportunities? Of course not. You have to be prepared for them, right? You kind of, you have to build yourself up to that. And how do you do that? Well, you do well in school. You treat people with kindness and respect, and you work hard. And if you can do those 3 things, whatever door you decide to be interested in opening when you're 16, 17, 18 years old, or even beyond, you need to be in a good place to do that. And if you're prepared to do it, then you're going to find success in whatever you choose to do. So, I do not put a ton of pressure on my kids. Of course, they're very young comparatively, but I also, I want them to do something that they truly find interest in and have a passion for.
Matt, one last thing before we wrap up. Can you do me a favor and just give a quick shout out to your wife and the 4 boys, by name, if you don't mind, so at least when they hear this, they know how loved they are. Do you mind doing that?
Of course. I would love to, Scott, and thank you for the opportunity. To my lovely wife, Jewel, of 15 years and, 6 weeks, Bobby, Lee, Sam, Wade, I love you guys. Thank you for your support. And I hope you guys listen to the Scott Becker podcast.
And more importantly, we hope you listen to Matt Duchamp. Matt, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Scott.